Today on CTV News at 5, citizen heroes. Motorists sprung into action to help a crash victim. Defending the big dogs, dog owners and behaviorists say don't blame the breed. Plus, jump at the pump, the price of gas is on the rise.
CTV News with Elissa Carpenter.
Good afternoon. There are no shortage of opinions following yesterday's story about a Rottweiler attack on two schnauzers. Our Facebook page has been hit with lots of comments by dog owners, many defending larger dogs, and experts at the animal shelter and Humane Society agree that big dogs shouldn't necessarily be blamed. However, larger dogs do have stronger jaws and can do more damage with them, which often leads to the stigma about Rottweilers and pit bulls. Experts say that how a dog is raised is the greatest indicator of how that dog will turn out, basically saying don't judge a dog based on its breed because they're not necessarily born that way. It's not every day you get to witness ordinary Albertans turning into heroes, but that's exactly what our reporter saw last night at the scene of a serious crash as several motorists sprang into action and provided whatever aid they could to the injured driver. Brendan Miller has the story.
We're just coming home from work and she was down in the ditch and we stopped and helped out.
Ron Ramage was one of nearly a dozen motorists who took immediate action to help an injured woman who was just involved in a serious car accident.
It's just automatic reaction, I guess. Gotta help out when people are in need, man.
In need, a 67-year-old woman suffering injuries after her 2007 Chevrolet Aveo hit a guardrail and rolled into a ditch on Highway 845 at around 7 p.m. last night. Immediately, motorists who witnessed the accident stopped and rushed to her assistance, providing the injured woman with blankets, first aid, and words of comfort to let her know help was on the way.
Miss, are you okay? What's your name? Where are you coming from? And just got a few things from her, and she tried to move, but she wasn't. Just told her don't move, just stay still, and wait until the paramedics got here, and we can get you somewhere safe.
Within minutes, paramedics and fire crews took over the scene and the injured woman was taken to hospital where she is recovering. Those who pulled over to assist the woman until first responders arrived humbly walked back to their vehicles.
Well, that's Canadians for you.
Good hope are good folks out there that actually care for one another, you know, and it's good to see that because you don't get that very much out here anymore.
Or maybe we do.
You know, everyone needs help sometimes. And so when that happens, certainly when we see it, we commend those people for doing it. And just as long as they're safe is the big thing.
The RCMP say they applaud those motorists who were on the scene last night.
That just goes to show that there's a lot of community spirit in this area, and that's, again, to be commended.
Brendan Miller, CTV News, Lethbridge.
And the cause of the crash is still under investigation. However, RCMP do not suspect alcohol in this case. And David is standing by in the Weather Center. And David, everybody wants to know, what's the long weekend looking like?
Just about perfect, I think. There's going to be very little to disrupt the weather over the long weekend. Lots of sunshine. Temperatures in some parts of southern Alberta, high 20s. Some areas might even reach 30 degrees. If you're headed out camping, you've probably already gone by now, but if you're still going out, you can expect absolutely ideal conditions in the campgrounds over the weekend. And for the many activities going on in and around the city of Lethbridge, it should be just an absolutely terrific weekend coming up. Last weekend of summer, I think we deserve it. We'll tell you more about it later in the program.
All right, thanks very much, David. And with the Labor Day long weekend upon us, RCMP hope motorists heed the warning to slow down out there. There are more cars on the highways because it's a long weekend, and authorities say this is one of the deadliest weekends of the year. That means Mounties will be stepping up patrols. They'll be looking for dangerous and impaired drivers.
Taking your time on the roadways is one of the big things. A lot of times we tend to see people that are pushing the limits on their vehicles because they want to get somewhere, they want to get back home. And, you know, taking your time, driving defensively, watching out for dangers, that type of thing is really going to help everyone to get home safe.
And as the summer comes to a close, campgrounds are filling up. It's a chance to get one last weekend of outdoor adventure before school begins on Tuesday. These shots were taken this afternoon at Park Lake Provincial Campground just outside of Lethbridge. And like pretty much every other campground across the province, there is not a single vacancy. We found these campers gearing up for their final hurrah of the season.
We're from Edmonton and we're down here to see family, and so this is kind of the last camping trip of the year. We've gone about 6 times and we just bought our trailer this year, so we wanted to just come out and have some fun and visit family, and if the flies and wasps can stay away, that would be fantastic.
We've had really nice warm days. It's been up to like 32, 35 one day. It was so hot. We put up our awning and then it blew it over with that big storm last night. So it got broken, but we've had a really good week.
We're going to have a tiki party here. So I hope we don't make too much noise for everybody around here. We got tiki skirts and grass skirts and pineapple, and we're going to roast a pork loin and going to have a good time.
And surprise, surprise, gas prices are on the rise just in time for the long weekend. Many stations were just over $1.10 yesterday, but many are now showing just under $1.20 for regular. With the long weekend quickly approaching, many stations are taking advantage of the last long weekend of the summer. Purchasers are no doubt voicing their opinions, but some are saying it's actually cheaper here in Alberta compared to other provinces.
Well, what actually really burns my butt is you can go to Shelby and buy our own gas $1 a gallon cheaper than we're paying here, at least, maybe more. Why? We're sitting on all this gas. Why are we paying so much for it? Like, that's not right.
Yeah, we're paying $1.28, $1.35 in Kamloops. Jumps 10 to 15 cents a liter in BC. So it's cheaper for us to come here.
It's very frustrating, but what are you going to do? I think the only way you could do anything is if everybody boycotted one gas station like Esso for a week and then switch to another one like Shell, then maybe they'd listen, but we could never get everybody together for that, I don't think.
The cheapest price we could find was $1.12, so fill up quickly before the prices rise. New details emerging today about the gas attack in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry now says the Syrian regime carefully prepared for days to launch the chemical weapons attack. Kerry says based on new intelligence, over 1,400 people were killed in the attack, including at least 426 children. Kerry also says Syrian regime personnel were at the site of the attack for 3 days beforehand, making preparations. He says regime personnel were told to prepare by putting on gas masks.
We know where the rockets were launched from and at what time. We know where they landed and when. We know rockets came only from regime-controlled areas and went only to opposition-controlled or contested neighborhoods. And we know, as does the world, that just 90 minutes later, all hell broke loose in the social media.
Syrian state news agency says President Bashar Assad says his country will defend itself against any aggression. And even without support from Britain, a key ally, the United States appears to be moving forward with planning for a military strike against Syria. Paul Workman has those details.
The Middle East is in a holding pattern, really, waiting for a strike that seemed imminent just a few days ago, less so today. The British decision not to take part in military action is a setback both for the Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, and for President Obama. And it all goes back to lingering public suspicion leading up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
We must learn the lessons of Iraq about the way we go about any action that we undertake. But military action is now off the agenda for Britain.
The UN inspection team is finishing its work in Syria. They will leave the country tomorrow and report to the UN Secretary General over the weekend. The question, of course, will the Americans wait for the report or will they strike first and perhaps strike unilaterally? They know that every day of delay gives the Syrians more time to hide their military equipment and disperse their forces. There is already word of them trying to hide Scud missiles and launchers.
We have been tracking movements of Assad forces around the city of Damascus. They are moving from their army barracks into specific schools.
Now, there are risks, of course, in the United States striking alone. There are risks if the Americans do not strike. The country's credibility is on the line. The president's credibility is on the line. And even though his plan is in some disarray today, there is still a strong possibility there could be airstrikes into Syria over the weekend. Paul Workman, CTV News, Beirut.
Back at home now, the University of Lethbridge is ready to open the doors of its newest dorm. Mount Blackiston House residents are the latest addition to the U of L's campus residence park. The $32 million, 11,000 square foot space is 5 stories tall and will increase on-campus living by a much-needed 60%. Nearly 70% of the U of L students are from outside of Lethbridge.
It's 259 beds. There's study spaces on every floor. There's a games room, obviously laundry facilities, a workout room. Like it's amazing. We're in the house lounge right now, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's really good to see that they went for the extra spaces and the extra common rooms, and know that they care enough for the student experience to know that they'll give us those extras just so we're more comfortable in our rooms.
And students will begin moving in on Monday. Well, David has a look at the long weekend forecast coming up. First, here are your Friday market numbers.